Okay, after talking about the 4 things to rely on when learning the Dharma, we need to also look at the 4 states of mind for studying the Dharma. First of all, we need to use faith to study the Dharma. As we talk about faith, this is not merely blind faith, because blind faith will be useless. The Buddha never asked anyone to believe him blindly. He always urged us to test his teachings and prove them for ourselves. In fact, there is no other way to study the Dharma except to test and retest it every day. But then, if we have to test the Dharma, why should we have faith? Well, faith might also be called confidence or reasonable expectations. Just as a college student studying mathematics must have confidence in his teacher and a reasonable expectation that the course he's taking will lead to a greater understanding of math. So a student of the Dharma must have confidence in the Dharma and a reasonable expectation that his teachings will in fact lead to enlightenment. After we have spent some time with the Dharma, we will naturally begin to have more and more confidence in it. Our faith will grow because our experience of the Buddha's teachings will have shown us that they are true. Just as wisdom grows with exposure to the Dharma, so too does faith. The treatise on the perfection of great wisdom says, "The Buddha Dharma is a vast ocean. We enter it with faith, and we cross it with wisdom." The Flower Garland Sutra says, "Faith is the mother of all virtue. It nourishes all good roots." Secondly, we need to use doubt to study the Dharma. Just as the Chan saying tells us, small doubts lead to small awakening. Great doubts lead to great awakenings. Without questions, there will be no answers. And without doubts, there will be no access points for new information. When we're certain of everything, we cannot learn. Therefore, we must never be afraid to ask any questions, for the Dharma definitely can answer any question that you can ask. In Chan Buddhism, doubt is what we call a meditation technique. Chan masters advise us to probe and explore our sensations of doubt. Chan meditation questions are designed to lead us deeply into these repositories of wonder and wisdom. Chan masters tell us to become friends with our doubts and use them. They ask us to ask ourselves, what did my face look like before I was born? And who is chanting the Buddha's name? And so on. Thirdly, we need to use our awakened mind to study the Dharma. People go to school to gain knowledge. People study the Dharma to become enlightened. And the process of becoming enlightened involves the fast and the slow. For example, slowly we read and study the Buddha's teachings. Then one day we suddenly say, "Aha, I understand." Then it is time to move to the next point, which usually follows a similar process of slow accumulation of information, followed by a sudden understanding of how that information is to be used. Understanding this process can help us appreciate that there are 2 sides of becoming enlightened. First of all, it is based on a slow process of learning. And secondly, it is something that is suddenly starts to stir within us when our learning penetrates the deep strata of our being. We need to be mindful of both these sides as we pursue our studies. Once a young student asked the Chan master where to begin his study of the Dharma. The Chan master replied, "Do you hear the birds singing in the tree? And do you hear the crickets buzzing in the grass? Can you see the water flowing in the brook? And the flowers blooming in the field?" The young student replied that he could. The Chan master said, "That is the right place to begin your study of the Dharma." By his response, the Chan master showed the young student 2 important things. 1st, he showed him how to use his awakened mind to begin his studies. And secondly, he showed him that his studies must be based on the real world around him. When we listen receptively to the world, our awakened mind will hear the voice of the Buddha in a trickling stream, and our eyes will see the Dharma realm in everything that we behold. We all must learn to find this awakened mind in ourselves. And once we have found it, we must learn to trust it and use it to show us the way to the Buddha that already lies within. When Chan Master Long Tan was still a novice, he went to study under Master Tian Huang. He stayed for several years, but Master Tian Huang never once taught him anything about the Dharma. At last, Long Tan became discouraged and decided to go somewhere else where he could receive real teachings. He went to the master and said, "I'm going away so I can study the Dharma." The master replied, "But we teach the Dharma right here. Why do you need to go somewhere else to study?" Long Tan replied, "I have been here for several years, but not once have you ever said anything to me about Dharma." The master replied, "When you hand me tea, I take it from you. When you bring me food, I always eat it. When you bow to me, I always acknowledge you and not back. When has there been a single day that I did not transmit the Dharma to you?" When he heard this, Long Tan had a great awakening and decided not to leave his master's side after all. The Buddha's wisdom lies within all of us. Each one of us must find this wisdom on our own. Teachers and books can help us learn, but no one can ever make our minds grow for us. No one else can ever show us our own true selves. Only we can discover who we really are. And fourthly, we need to use no mind to study the Dharma. No mind does not calculate, compare, or contrive. No mind is pure, it is certain, and it is undefiled by the complexities of self-centeredness. Our true mind is receptive to what is happening around us. It can listen to its own promptings as well as to the insights of other people. Our true mind is a selfless no mind. Once a student asked a Chan master, "Master, when you meditate, you usually do so for a very long time. Do you enter meditation through mind or through no mind?" The master answered, "When I enter meditation, it is neither through mind nor through no mind. I enter it in a state that is beyond all relative distinctions." Ultimately, the truths contained in the Dharma are beyond all relative distinctions. They are beyond good versus bad, joy versus sadness, hot versus cold, or right versus wrong. No mind can be thought of as a mental state that is able to lead the mind beyond all relative distinctions. It is a sort of antidote that cures our minds of their tendencies to hold on to inhibiting preconceptions. It is nearly impossible to imbibe the rich nectar of the Buddha's teachings if we always approach them analytically, or if we're always comparing them to something else. First, we must be receptive. This is no mind. Then we can absorb the Dharma and make it part of ourselves as we discover that it always was there. Once a student asked Chan Master Wei Shan, "What is the way?" The master replied, "No mind is the way." The student said, "Then I'm lost." The master said, "Then go find someone who is not lost." The student said, "But who is not lost?" The master said, "There's no one but yourself. You must find yourself." It is hoped that all students of the Dharma will adopt an attitude like this in their studies. If we are receptive to the world around us and sensitive to the conclusions of our own introspections, then the great teachings of the Buddha will lead us unfailingly towards our ultimate liberation. The goal of no mind is to see the world as it really is, not as we think it is. When this goal has been achieved, you will see the Buddha in everything and your true self in him. You will see the universe in a flower and eternity in a momentary smile. Now, today, we have gone through the ways for us to learn the Dharma especially the 4 things to rely on when we learn the Dharma, which are rely on the Dharma, not on people. Rely on wisdom, not on knowledge. Rely on meaning, not on words. Rely on definitive meaning, not on provisional meaning. These are something which we all need to bear in mind as we learn the Dharma. And followed by the 4 things to rely on when we learn the Dharma, we also need to use the following 4 states of mind when we study the Dharma. And the first is to use faith to study the Dharma. And second, to use doubt to study the Dharma. And then use your awakened mind to study the Dharma. And finally, use no mind to study the Dharma. And by following these very important principles, you will be ensured that you are kept on the right path as you learn and study the Dharma. And I hope this has given you some clear directions on how to pursue the Dharma. And we'll stop here today and see you next time.